Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have a fantastic show planned for you today. Brianna, what is going on?
Well, is the Iran nuclear deal dead? The Quincy Institute's Dr. Trita Parsi joins later. We'll get into that viral clip of President Biden. Plus, in my radar, I'll get into newly released archival documents related to the JFK assassination. You won't want to miss that either. But first, The Intercept's Lee Fong is out with the Twitter files Part 8, how Twitter quietly aided the Pentagon's covert online PSYOP campaign. Let's get into it. According to Fong, Twitter gave approval and special protection to the U.S. military's online psychological influence operations. Despite knowledge that Pentagon propaganda accounts used covert identities, Twitter did not suspend many for around 2 years or more. Some remain active today. In 2017, a U.S. Central Command official sent Twitter a list of 52 Arab language accounts that said, quote, "We used to amplify certain messages." The official asked for priority service for 6 accounts, verification for 1, and whitelist abilities for the others. The same day CENTCOM sent the list, Twitter officials used a tool to grant a special whitelist tag that essentially provides verification status to the accounts without the blue check, meaning they are exempt from spam or abuse flags and are more visible or likely to trend on hashtags.
The CENTCOM accounts on the list tweeted frequently about U.S. military priorities in the Middle East, including promoting anti-Iran messages, promotion of the Saudi Arabia U.S.-backed war in Yemen, and accurate U.S. drone strikes that claimed to only hit terrorists, accurate in quotations. Obviously, Twitter's comms team was closely in touch with reporters working to minimize Twitter's role in the amplification and the protection of the propaganda accounts. When the Washington Post reported on the scandal, Twitter officials congratulated each other because the story didn't mention any Twitter employees. Fong concludes, quote, "The conduct with the U.S. military's covert network stands in stark contrast with how Twitter has boasted about rapidly identifying and taking down covert accounts tied to state-backed influence operations, including Thailand, Russia, Venezuela, and others since 2016. Yikes. So this is bad and very hypocritical because what this reveals is that the U.S. government, the deep state, is doing exactly what sort of everyone in liberal mainstream media circles accused Russia of doing 2016. Foreign-based Twitter accounts, the bots, spammy accounts, having an influence on the political conversation, deliberately set up to surreptitiously, inauthentically, remember the whole inauthentic accounts? Promote a political narrative favorable to a foreign power. That's exactly what we said Russia was doing. That's what we're doing. That's what this is.
But it's our fake bots, right? And this has always been the case. With all the vying against bot accounts and fake news and misinformation campaigns, it's always been clear that the real problem was whose misinformation campaign it was, whose fake bots it was. We've always lived in a world where the idea of a Bernie bro bot lives large in the public imagination, despite Bernie actually just having authentic, very enthusiastic fans that like to tweet a lot. And things like the K-Hive get its explicit endorsement from folks like Kamala Harris's own husband, who is famously pictured with his arm around one of the worst offenders, who was later shown to be basically paid to coordinate this larger team of fake, not some of which are fake, some of which are real people, but coordinated, inauthentic K-Hive accounts. So it's never been a consistent ideological, distaste for misinformation, coordinated bot accounts, coordinated messaging. And this example goes far beyond whatever like political internal machinations with K-Hive and Bernie Bro and Warren Snakes and all of that stupidness from 2020. This is the government having accounts that were initially identified as related to the government, right, in their hashtags, et cetera, that slowly just took that stuff out, used Arab language so it seemed like there were local, organic tweets that affirmed the role of the U.S. in various regions around the world. Some of the accounts even used deep fake images for the profiles, the idea like fabricated, completely computer-generated identities. And Twitter had not only knowledge of these accounts, but helped facilitate them from getting tagged as spam or bots and gave them, I didn't even know this was possible, a blue check status, a verified status, without actually having the verification logo. So completely under the radar, they're insulated from all of the reporting, flagging, protections that people can use to try to point out content that is inauthentic. You wouldn't even know that those kind of reports weren't working because they don't actually have the blue check protection. They do actually have the blue check protection, but there's nothing explicit about it on their profile.
Right, even though these accounts are violating Twitter policies.
Yep.
And that's the key thing, because I guess, okay, whatever. If the U.S. government wants to take the position that its influence campaigns are legitimate, others are not, America good, Russia bad, okay, you see how the American government would have that view. But Twitter is under no obligation to also hold that view and to treat those accounts differently. Twitter could say, no, our policies are our policies. You're not allowed to do this on our platform. Or it could say, sorry, we're hands off. Anything goes. We're not going to pay attention to this stuff. But again, they were very one direction-y about these things.
Yes.
One Direction.
Don't bring One Direction into this.
That. Sorry, Harry.
But like
Zayn.
And when you look at some of these emails, so to be clear, we have this information because Lee was not. Lee is a reporter at The Intercept, obviously, a former colleague of mine. He wasn't given access to the full Twitter files in the way that Barry Weiss and Matt Taibbi and others were.
What do you mean?
So what happened was last week he was given an opportunity for 3 days to make requests. I guess in a similar process you would make FOIA requests, but a lawyer on the Twitter files end of it basically administered the request, did the searches for him, and sent the documents back over to Lee. So Lee was clear, like, this isn't even like the full investigation using the search terms that he necessarily would have picked if he were allowed direct access to the documents. But even so, he got this treasure trove of files, which I think he did a really excellent job explaining in this full piece at The Intercept, which everybody should read. And that also raises some interesting questions about what the best format for relaying some of this information is, whether the Twitter listicle is as compelling.
I found his article much easier to read than many of these Twitter threads.
It was very good.
Called me old-fashioned.
Right. Same here. But look at what some of the stuff that came out. So there was one U.S. Central Command official named whose name was Nathaniel Kaler, and I loved this back and forth because there's a document in which he is writing and complaining. He's complaining that some of these fake accounts, I can't get over this. He says, we've got some accounts that are not indexing on hashtags. Perhaps they were flagged as bots. Like, it's a bot. Like, it is a bot. A few of these had built a real following we were hoping to salvage. I mean, and the thing is, it's just, we know that this stuff happens, right?
And what they're doing is, from their standpoint, they're promoting American interests and trying to undermine hostile regimes and, foster messages that appear authentic. They're not authentic, but appear authentically pro-American and make people say, oh, people just like me in other parts of the world actually think Iran is bad.
Freedom bringers are here.
Yeah.
But the issue is not Kaler who's doing his job. It's that he's writing this to Twitter, and Twitter is not only acquiescing to these requests, helping to facilitate this charade. But they are also going out of their way to brag about not being caught up in some of the media fallout as the Washington Post reported on some of this down the line. So the picture that is presented is that there's this real identity of interest between what should be an independent corporation like Twitter and the U.S. government. And I don't want to be one of those people who just throws the fascism word around too much, but that's literally the definition that so many of us are going by, this unholy relationship between corporate entities and the government to deceive the broader public.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, and it's deeply concerning. Think how much we're learning about the government's efforts to just make these companies be mouthpieces for them, and it really speaks to what a lot of people on the right these days are saying about how can you say they're private companies? They're just they should be treated like common carriers, or the law should reflect common carriers. I push back on that a lot because I don't think common carrier is necessarily a good model for these platforms, to the extent that they are operating as private entity. I mean, they have ad-based they're trying to they want to curate a user experience that sells for advertisers. That's their business model. That doesn't fit what they're doing. But then they have to distance themselves from the government. They have to say no. And you see in their messages that sometimes they want to say no, sometimes they feel pressured not to. Reform has to come on the other end, clearly. But I think even people like us who had come to understand that there's way too much overlap at this point are a little floored at the amount of just overlap of ooey gooey connections of telling them what to do, of content moderation decisions being made by the FBI or the Department of Homeland Security or the CDC.
And then they gaslight us about it. That's the thing. Like a lot of people have said, well, we knew this already, didn't we? Sure. But they've been gaslighting us about the fact that they didn't, in fact, do this. And to your point about all of the Red Scare, Russia bot stuff, they've been so explicitly saying they disapprove of exactly this kind of behavior for so long that it is, in my opinion, very galling to see it trotted out front and center, all of the vaccines machinations that have been happening with our own U.S. government. But we'll get into this a little bit more on My Radar coming up next.